All right, you've just been in a car accident. It's your first ever car accident here on the roads in Arizona, and you have no idea what to do. I'm here to help you. My name is Darren Woodfork, and I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've been practicing law here for 26 years, and I can help you if you've ever been involved in a car accident. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 things that you should think about if you can remember. Obviously it'll be a traumatic situation if you're ever in that situation, but if you can think about, here are 5 things that'll help you if you've been in a car accident, and 5 things that'll help your insurance claim, or your litigate in court if you need to go in court later. But anyways, the 5 things are: first of all, what you're going to do immediately after the accident when you're out at the scene. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to know how to talk to the other driver's insurance company when they call you. The third thing I'll be talking about in this video is how you talk to your own insurance company and how they help you get your car repaired. The fourth thing I'm going to talk about is what happens to your medical bills. How do you deal with your medical bills as you're recovering from a regular car accident? And then the fifth thing is I'll talk about the timeline, about how long it takes from beginning to end to settle your typical car accident case here in Arizona. So with all that said, let's begin with number 1. And number 1, like I said, is the first thing that you need to do if you're ever involved in a situation where you're involved in a car accident case. The first thing you need to do is, if you're not hurt too bad, is to move off the side of the road out of traffic, move over into a safe place, and then stop on the safe side, and then call 911. Call the police. Make sure that you call law enforcement. Even if you don't think you're hurt, if you're in any type of accident, make sure you call the police to come out there to get a police report anyway. But do that. If you're hurt too bad, don't get out of the car. Don't do anything. But if you're okay to get out of the car, get out of the car and take pictures of the damage to your car. Take pictures of the damage to the driver who hit you to their car. Take pictures of your injuries if you have any visible injuries at the scene. Sometimes you'll get the burns from the airbag at the scene. Take pictures of that. Take pictures of everything. Take video if you want to. Again, all if you feel like it, because again, when you first are hit by somebody in an accident, you'll be confused, you'll be scared, you'll have a lot of anxiety. All that. So, just keep that in mind. And then, so just, like I said, document that, take the pictures. When the police arrive, or before the police arrive, don't talk to the witnesses, or don't talk to the guy who hit you. Don't confront them. Don't say anything at the scene. And then also, when the police come, just be careful what you say to the police, because the police they're going to separate everybody, and they're going to ask people what happened in the accident, how the accident happened, did anybody see it, things like that. And they'll ask witnesses, what happened, but they'll definitely ask you, the witnesses. And if you say that you were hit, they'll ask you, well, were you hurt? And then if they ask you something like that, just basically say you don't know, you're scared, you feel tightness or whatever. But don't say you're not hurt, basically is the point, because they're going to put that in the police report. The insurance company will see that, and then later they'll say that you told the police that you weren't hurt in this accident. So anyway, just be careful what you say to the police. After the police do their investigation, they're going to give you what's called an insurance exchange form. It'll be like a rectangular piece of paper with your insurance, with the other driver's insurance information, their policy number and all that. And it also have a police report number for eventually you'll be able to get the police report from the accident. So all that's going to happen at the scene. And then, the most important thing is you just take care of your physical well-being. If you need to go in the ambulance to the hospital, do that. If you need to go to urgent care, do that. If you need somebody to come pick you up and take you to urgent care, do that. But just take care of yourself. That leads me to the second point. The next day, or maybe even that night, you'll get a call from the other driver's insurance company, and that's what we'll talk about right now. The second point is how you're going to deal with the other driver's insurance company when they call you. Now, After an accident, normally the insurance company is going to either text you or they're going to call you, maybe the night of the accident, maybe the next day or the day after that. When they call you, they're going to ask you for a recorded statement. Don't give them a recorded statement. The reason why you don't give them a recorded statement is because what you say could be used against you later in your case. Now, they'll ask you like kind of what happened, and you know they want to ask you if you're hurt. And the reason why you don't talk to them or you don't give them a recorded statement is because they're going to try to find out how bad you're hurt, and they want you to say that you're not hurt so they can use that against you later. They'll ask, you know, if you were to give them a statement, you know, they'll ask you, well, how are you feeling? How bad do you think it is on a scale from 0 to 10, things like that. And then they always ask kind of like, you know, the worst question in the world is they'll say, is there anything else you want to tell me? They always try to close the loop and basically say, are you sure you've told me everything that's hurting on you, everything that's tight on you, all that? And then if you say yes, then later when, you know, 2 days after that, you can't even get out of bed, they'll say, well, you told us back then that you weren't hurt. So that's why we say don't give them a recorded statement. Now there are scenarios where you would give, that we advise our clients to give the other drivers a recorded statement, but those are very rare cases. The cases where we do advise you to give it a statement is if there's a real dispute about liability, if there's a real dispute about whose fault the accident was, if there's a real dispute about whose fault the accident was, and if they say that, you know, they're not going to open the claim or they're going to deny the claim or something like that, if they don't get a statement, then sometimes we will let them give a recorded statement on, you know, what the accident happened. But then we obviously will instruct you just to be vague on your injuries, things like that. But again, that's a very rare situation where we allow our clients to give a recorded statement, and that's if there's a real legitimate fault issue. And then the other real small scenario where we would let our clients give a recorded statement to the other driver's insurance company is as if there's an allegation, a real allegation of fraud. If they're saying that the whole accident was like a setup. I haven't seen many of those in the last 15 years. Maybe 20 years ago, I think I saw not a rash of them, but I saw a number of cases where they were setting up, they're faking these accidents basically back in the early 2000s. But anyways, those are the cases where we would give the insurance company a statement if there's a real allegation of that. But other than that, you don't want to give the other driver's insurance company a recorded statement. There is a scenario where you do talk to your own insurance company and maybe the other insurance company, and that's when you're getting your car fixed. Because the other driver hit you, they are responsible to pay for your rental car. They're responsible to pay for your car repair, and if your car is damaged beyond repair, they're responsible for totaling out your car and giving you the money for a new one. And I'll talk to you in the next point. I'll talk to you about how you can go through your own insurance company to get your car repaired. But if you do go with through the other guy's insurance, the guy who hit you's insurance, you will have to give them a statement, and they'll ask you what happened. Then they'll open up a property claim and send somebody out to evaluate your car. But I'll talk about here in the next point why that may not be the best scenario for you. And I'll be talking about that here in point 3, where we talk about how you deal with your own insurance company after a car accident case. So let's go into number 3, how you deal with your own insurance company when you are involved in a car accident case. The first thing you need to do, that you do have to give them a statement. You do have to give them a recorded statement. When you call, most of the time in an accident, you'll call your own insurance company and let them know you've been involved in an accident. They'll ask you what happened. As a policy holder of the insurance policy, you have a duty to cooperate with them in any investigation. So therefore, you do have to give them a recorded statement. But that's fine. You tell them what happened in the accident. Usually your own insurance company doesn't ask you how injured you were or what your injuries were, things like that. They'll just ask you kind of what happened. Now, the reason why, and I alluded to this in the last point, the reason why you would give your insurance company a statement is because it's the easiest for you to get your car fixed by your own insurance company. And so basically what happens is your own insurance company will give you a rental car. They'll repair your car, or they'll give you, they'll total out your car. They'll give you the value of the car. And the reason why this is so good is because it happens so fast. Like if you're in an accident, your own insurance company can get you a rental car the next day. And they can get out and repair your car within 3 or 4 days, and you'll get a new car within a week. And they cannot raise your rates for using your own insurance company to fix your car if somebody else is at fault for the accident. Now, the reason why you do this is because if you go through the other driver who hit you, if you go to their insurance company to fix your car, and you have every right to do it, but if you do, it's going to take a lot longer. It might not be as they may not pay you as much money for the car, for the value of the car. There's a number of issues that come up when you're dealing with the other driver's insurance company. And so it's so much easier to have your own insurance company do everything on the car, and then they'll get their money back later from the guy who hit you. But as I was getting to, if you do go through the other driver's insurance company, it could take you 3 weeks to get anything done with your car. It could take you 3 weeks to get a rental car. And the reason why it takes so long if you go through through the other driver's insurance company for your car, the reason why it takes so long is because before they open up a property claim or a car claim, they have to make sure that it's their fault for the accident. And in order to make sure it's their fault, they'll have to talk to they might talk to their driver, their insured, and ask him what happened. They might want to talk to some witnesses. They might have to wait for the police report to be ready to see the police report. So they might have all these delays before they say, okay, it's our fault for the accident, now we'll fix your car. That's why we say if you go through your own insurance company, it's so much faster, because your own insurance company, they'll just take your word for what happened, they'll fix your car, and then they'll get their money back from the guy who hit you. So that's how you deal with your own insurance company. Sometimes you'll, on your auto insurance policy, you can deal with your own insurance company when you go to the doctor and you go to the chiropractor or the urgent care, something like that. Sometimes you'll have what's called MedPay on your insurance policy, which pays about $5,000 to medical coverage. And so that's another part of dealing with your own insurance company. Your own insurance company might ask you if you need to open up a MedPay claim. And I'll talk about that. That's my next point here, is how you deal with your medical bills and who pays for the medical bills and all of that. But back when you're first dealing with your own insurance company, they might ask you about MedPay, and if you need to make a MedPay, open up a MedPay claim, medical payments claim, for this accident. Further down the road, and I'll talk about this in another video, but you could have to use your own insurance company if the other driver did not have enough insurance, they were underinsured. And then that's a situation where you talk to your own insurance company if necessary, but we'll talk about that in another video. But anyway, so that's how you deal with your own insurance company. Again, the day of the accident or the next day, just get your car fixed as fast as possible. And as I said, the next point I'm going to talk about here is how you deal with the medical bills. You're going to be, recovering. You're going to be going to chiropractic care, physical therapy, things like that as you try to get better, for the next weeks and months after the accident. Well, your medical bills are going to be piling up. And so I'm going to talk about how you deal with those and how those are dealt with in an accident claim. And so let's get started. So basically, when you're involved in an accident, you're going to typically go to the the ambulance or the medical personnel will come and pick you up, or somebody will drive you to the hospital or to the urgent care. Or I guess you'll just go home and then the next couple of days go to your primary care doctor, and then go to, your primary care doctor will refer you out to a chiropractor or a physical therapist, something like that. And like I said previously, if you go to the hospital, the night of the accident, you might know this already in that, or you might have experienced this before. If you've ever been to the hospital, they ask for your healthcare insurance card, and you give them that card. And that's what would happen here in this scenario. And so when you give them your insurance card, basically they're gonna bill your health insurance for that hospital stay or the ER visit. And then your health insurance, once they determine that there was somebody else who caused your accident, caused your injuries, who's responsible for the accident, and once they find that out, they'll get their money back. Your health insurance will get whatever they paid to the hospital, they'll get that back from your settlement from the guy who hit you. And basically that's called subrogation. And so that's how that works with your hospital bill and how that's paid. But the other question, and it's a very common question, is what do you do with medical people who don't have, or what do you do when your health insurance doesn't pay for medical care? And that often happens when you're dealing with physical therapists, you're dealing with chiropractors, maybe even some urgent cares that your health insurance won't pay for. And so then you're in a situation where, in a typical accident case here that we handle here at the firm, we will ask the doctor or the chiropractor, whoever is treating you, to basically wait for payment for their services as you are treating, and then we promise to pay them once we settle the case later down the road. And basically what it is we're working on a lien, essentially, and basically the chiropractor say, okay, we'll treat you for free, and then we have to file a lien saying that you'll promise to pay us back when you settle the case. And so that's what happens when you don't have health insurance, or when you don't have a way to pay the medical bills. The medical providers will wait for payment. So that's how most cases are done here, most car accident cases, and that's how your medical bills are taken care of. And so you don't have to worry about that. All you have to do is worry about getting better. And that's kind of what I'll talk about in the next point, is kind of how long the timeline takes. And a lot of the determination of how long a case goes depends on how long it takes you to get back to 100%. So let's talk about that. The next point we'll talk about is how long does this whole process take when you're involved in your typical accident case here in Arizona. The first thing you need to know is in Arizona there's called a 2-year statute of limitations. Basically that just means there's a 2-year time limit between the date of the accident and the day that you need to file a lawsuit. So that's on the books. Basically that's how long the case could take, or at least that gives you an idea of how long a typical car accident case takes. Now, in reality, most cases don't last for 2 years, and here's how long they do last and why they last as long as they do. I always tell my clients basically it's going to be about 60 days to 90 days after they recover from their injuries. So if you're involved in a car accident, you might end up in physical therapy for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, something like that. And once at the end of that time, the doctor will release you to what they call maximum medical improvement. And they'll release you, and that's when you're back to 100%. That's important too, because you have to be back to 100%, because once you settle an insurance case, once you settle a claim, after that you can't go back for more money from the insurance company. And so you have to make sure that you're completely better, you've done all the medical treatment that you needed to get back to 100%. And then once that's done, you get the seal of approval from the doctors. Then after that, like I said, the 60-day, 90 days kind of starts. Basically what happens is I gather up all your information, your lawyer gathers up all your information, and we get your medical bills, we get your lost wages, we get out-of-pocket costs, and then we take all that stuff and then we add on pain and suffering onto the claim. We put all that together, come up with a number, send that over to the insurance company, and demand that number for a fair settlement for our clients. Once that happens, that usually takes 30 days for the insurance company to respond. I would say in 60 to 70% of the cases, they'll respond, and then we negotiate for the next 2 or 3 weeks on getting up to a fair settlement, and then your case is settled, usually like that. So that's usually, like I said, about 2 to 3 months after you get done, after you're back to 100%. That's the typical accident case timeline here in Arizona. Now, there's a couple exceptions to that, and a couple times where it could go a little bit further, and that is if the insurance company is not treating you fairly and they're not offering you enough money for what you went through. Basically, if that's a scenario, if we've negotiated as much as we can and they're still not coming up to the fair number for you, then we will file a lawsuit in court down here. And so once we file a lawsuit, then the case moves kind of from the insurance company to their defense lawyers, and we start doing everything that's involved in court, and that's called discovery. And that's basically papers that go back and forth between the attorneys for the next usually 9 months, 12 months, as far as building up a case. And so you can see how that, if you're in court, it could extend a lot longer than the typical car accident case. And when I do say in court, I don't mean you're going to be in front of a jury or a judge or anything like that. Most cases don't get in front of the jury, judge, or arbitrator where there's like a final decision. Some do, but that's rare. But again, all these cases, if you're in court, is going to take, like I said, maybe at least 6 more months, maybe a year, all that. Some of your cases do settle while you're litigating the case, while you're in court or doing all the litigation stuff. Some cases will settle. Oftentimes, my clients, their cases settle after what's called the deposition, and so as a part of that litigation, as part of what's the discovery stuff, there's papers going back and forth, all that. But then once the papers go back and forth, usually they'll set up a deposition, and basically that's an interview where they bring the victim, my clients, down and they interview them for an hour or two. And that's called a deposition. Once that's over, a lot of times we settle cases here. A lot of PI cases settle after the deposition. Basically, after the defense lawyers see how good our clients are going to be as a witness in the case, and how good they'd be on the stand, and how good they would be telling their story about what they went through and how bad the accident was and how long and arduous their recovery was. And so once they hear that out of the clients and they see the clients, a lot of times they come to the table with a fairer settlement than they were before. So anyways, but that's part of the whole litigation process, and if you're involved in that, that will extend the timeline by a year probably in your regular car accident case. So anyways, hope that helps. That's the 5 points that I just want you to know. Again, if you're ever in the unfortunate situation of you being in a car accident, or your family or friends or anybody, and you can kind of remember these things. Just remember kind of what to do out at the scene, what to do when the other driver's insurance company calls you, what to do when when you contact your own insurance company. Just kind of remember how your medical bills are going to be taken care of, and then kind of just remember how long this whole process takes. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me at my email, which is darronw@msn.com. That's DERRONW@msn.com. You can reach me you can call me at 602-284-3035. Or you can check out my website. It's Wood Fork Law. That's WOODFORKLAW.com. I'll have all that in the description here too, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions for you and help you out. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll have more videos on this channel that just give you helpful information about accident cases, personal injury cases, and even like, you know, restoring gun rights or sealing old criminal cases, things like that. Just helpful information for the public, any Arizona citizens who come across these videos. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.